Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Lioness community event. If I don't know you already, hi, I'm Bobby Carlton. I am the editor-in-chief and publisher of Lioness Magazine. Lioness Magazine is for the female entrepreneur, and I am an entrepreneur myself. I also founded Innovation Women. And today I am very fortunate to be here with a set of panelists. We are talking about being a parentpreneur and how to navigate business growth and family life in the same time frame, I guess. It's all about time, right? When you're a parent. Next slide, please. So, before we get started today, I do want to remind everyone that Lioness Magazine and Innovation Women have all kinds of great webinars and events. So, our next networking session is going to be in June. That's June 3rd, noon Eastern. And we're going to be talking about who is in your inner circle. We also have an upcoming webinar, and it's going to be talking about future-proofing your business, how women entrepreneurs can harness AI without losing their humanity. Next slide, please. And just a reminder that Lioness Magazine has its own community. If you are interested in joining our community of women entrepreneurs, you can network with other entrepreneurs. You can increase your visibility, and we have amazing resources and tools that you can access. Next slide. All right, so we are here today. I'm going to be introducing our parentpreneurs, and we are going to kick off with a series of questions. I have many questions to ask, even though I have done the whole parentpreneur thing myself. I have many questions, but I imagine you do as well, and that is why you're here today. So if you have a question that you would like to ask, if you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, that would be incredibly helpful. All right, so our first guest today is Navjot. So thank you for joining us. Navjot, Navjot is committed to the field of education and social services and holds a Master of Education in Educational Leadership with extensive experience fostering equity, diversity and inclusion, and that's EDI in various sectors. She's also registered with the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers and has honed her skills and knowledge in working with diverse populations. Next special guest, and we have with us Marjie Hadad. Marjie is the founder of Must Have Communications and Consulting. She is a PR expert, former TV journalist, and award-winning TV producer. And she's also an author with 30 plus years of experience. She specializes in medical and venture capital PR and designs strategic programs to support the business objectives of her clients. And she's the mom of 3 grown children. All right, next we have with us Elizabeth Munoz. Elizabeth is a former corporate sales leader turned holistic business mentor. As the founder of the Soul Haven Foundation and creator of the Soul Illumination Method and Sales with Soul framework, she brings 17 years of combined experience in corporate sales and soul-led entrepreneurship to her transformative coaching. She's the mother of 4. And moving on. All right. Robbie Samuels is a speaker, book launch strategist, event design consultant, executive Zoom producer, and business growth strategy coach. Whew. All right. He is the award-winning author of 3 books and the founder of the Biz Book Pub Hub, which works with entrepreneurs to navigate the complexities of writing, editing, publishing, and marketing their books. Robbie is the openly transgender owner of Robbie Samuels LLC, a certified LGBT business enterprise. And he has two kiddos, ages 7 and 9. It's not a competition, folks, but we've got quite the breadth and the depth of parenthood here. And our next guest is Lidia Varesco-Racoma. Lidia is of Lidia Varesco Design in Chicago. She's empowering organizations to make change through strategic branding and marketing design. She makes beautiful things. She's a blogger, speaker, coach, and leads workshops, courses, and masterminds for nonprofits, associations, and social entrepreneurs worldwide. Lidia Varesco Design is a certified woman-owned business and will celebrate 25 years in business in November 2025. And she's the mom of two. And as we were saying earlier, I am also a mom. Although my kids are grown, doesn't mean that I'm any less a mom. So we have, as I mentioned before, really an incredible breadth of options here for parenthood. And I'm going to ask all of our members to tell us a little bit about themselves, their business, and their family. Navjot, if I can start with you, that would be great.
Thank you, Bobby. So in terms of my family, I only have one little toddler who is about 2.5 years old. I started my company, I think when she turned 2. So I do actually run a rescue as well, which I have been doing for the past 8 years. So that kind of gave me the motivation to start something of my own because I had that experience of, managing projects all the way from here. And my rescue is in India, so it's called Compassion of Animal Welfare Association, and we do a lot of community education, community outreach, rabies control, spay and neuter initiatives, and we do a lot of collaboration with other organizations and NGOs to sort of come together and help humans and animals bond in a more positive manner. And in terms of my company, Diverse Spectrum Solutions, I provide workshops as well as consultancy services to organizations and help them create more inclusive environments for their team members as well as their leadership team, because it's not just always for employees. It's usually for I create my workshops for board members, managers, and you name it. I feel like it starts at the top and then it kind of goes to the bottom. So that's a little bit about myself. So yeah, I'm only a mom to one little girl who's about 2.5. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Marjie.
I'm Marjie Hadad, and I am a global public relations expert and a professional speaker and an author. And I help leaders to use their public relations superpowers to solve problems and to achieve their organizational, professional, and personal goals. I have 3 grown children. Number 1, my son is going to be 28 very shortly, and he is a software engineer for a high-tech firm. Number 2 is 25. She's a medical student in her 3rd year, and the business was born when she arrived because I wanted to adjust my time schedule and to be able to fit it all in. And I felt that the only way that I could do that was to become an entrepreneur. And so I did. And so instead of having a gazillion calendars, I switched over to one calendar and timelined accordingly. Number 3 is 20, and she is finishing up her military service. And I work internationally. Public relations is a 24/7 kind of job. So I always say to my clients, you'll always feel like my one and only. And if I'm conscious, I will answer the phone.
Okay. All right, Elizabeth, next to you.
Hi, I am Elizabeth. I am the founder of Soul Haven and the Soul Haven Foundation. And after spending about 17 years in corporate and kind of high ticket corporate sales, really high demand and very performative, I ultimately ended up burning out, got really, really sick, and ended up having to go out on disability, which kind of led me on a whole different journey of holistic healing and reassessing my priorities and realizing how much I had missed out on. And there was a lot of mom guilt that I had for missing kids' school events because I was traveling for sales conferences and whatnot. And so I ended up becoming a life coach and then a health and wellness coach and kind of merged everything together. And as I was on that journey, my goddaughter, who was 19, she passed away in a car accident. And that was a really big hit for my nervous system, for our whole family, and just to heal. And so from there, I founded the foundation. And so the foundation works with 18 to 22-year-old girls. And the goal is to really help them to find their voice and to pair them with a mentor that will allow them to build that confidence or help them to build that confidence and to go out in the world knowing their purpose and just being able to show up authentically and be truly themselves. And so within the Soul Haven infrastructure, I created the Sales with Soul framework. And really, that's all about helping with vision, visibility, voice, and really getting clear on who we are and what it is that we're providing, and learning to sell from a place of service and not selling a service, so that you feel more aligned and you're able to really show up as yourself. And on a personal level, I am a mother of 4. I have a 21-year-old, so 3 boys and a girl, 21-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 7-year-old, and then a 6-year-old little girl. And I am happily married. My husband is amazing and fully supportive. So I've been very blessed. And the things that I like to do. So I live in Cave Creek, Arizona, and I have about an acre and a half. Fun little fact, I have 24 chickens, 6 ducklings, 2 dogs. We got a whole bunch of fish. And so, yeah, we're very, very busy. That's about it.
Excellent. All right, Robbie, a little bit about yourself, your family, and your business.
So, Bobby, you and I met when I was still working a 9 to 9 job in a nonprofit, organizing fundraising events and doing major gift work. And I started speaking on the side while employed there. And I left that job after another 5 years of having that side hustle back just over 10 years ago at the end of 2014. And I was committed to creating a new business speaking. But I wanted a different audience from my nonprofit audience, and I didn't quite know exactly how to go about that. My wife heard me talking about some offers that I was receiving to do things that were not aligned with my business vision, and she kept saying, "Oh, it's fine. Like, go ahead." And I was like, "You're okay with me turning down these offers?" And she said, "Yeah, it's fine." Now, we didn't have children yet, so her answer basically was, I lived here and paid my way without you. I love you, but I don't need you." And that gave me permission to explore a business plan. And that was back in 2015. Our first kid was born at the end of that year, and then 2 years later, a second. And so I became the at-home parent, the work-at-home dad, because I didn't really have a business that was pulling in enough money yet to do anything more than that. So that year I was learning about baby gear while trying to figure out how to launch a podcast. It was a very interesting mind split. So there were a lot of times where I just had a kid on my shoulder during those early calls. And if you weren't cool with that, you weren't going to be a client. So I could really relate to some of this. But since then, my business has evolved. The pandemic through my in-person focused business, teaching people how to network at conferences off track, and I became a Zoom producer. And I ultimately published 3 books that had a really good response regarding reviews. And so now I'm a book launch strategist. And my new book, Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue, it'll be out in like a month. And so now I'm sort of known as a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And I have 2 kiddos, ages 7 and 9. And I would say the fact that they're now in school all the time is definitely a help. Although today they have a day off. So we will see if they can read the sign that I put on the door.
All right. And Lydia.
Thank you. I love that. I've made those signs before myself. I'm Lidia Varesco-Racoma. As Bobby mentioned, I'm a brand strategist and marketing designer, and I work primarily with mission-focused organizations. So everything from nonprofits to associations, higher ed. I help them with everything from brand strategy development and messaging, all the way through the visual identity, as well as the outreach. So marketing materials, fundraising appeals, brochures, digital marketing, content marketing, you name it. I really help them with all the things. And I kind of chose that niche of working with nonprofits when my first child was born, shortly after that, because I really felt like I had kind of a stronger purpose. I really wanted to do work that mattered, try to make the world a better place for my kids. So now I have two kids now. They are 13-year-old boy, 9-year-old girl, and they continue to inspire me every day. So, they inspired me to kind of go down this nonprofit path, and they inspire me to do a lot of other things. So I am currently kind of evolving my business. This year I'll celebrate 25 years. So I'm in kind of another different season. I have one child that's going into high school, one that will be in kind of the middle school era. So I'm kind of looking at different ways to evolve my business, which includes doing more speaking, teaching, and starting some mastermind groups for nonprofit professionals this year as well.
Nice. Great introduction, everybody. We've got a whole series of questions, but if you in the audience have burning questions, things that you want to answer, definitely drop those in the Q&A and I will grab them as they are coming in. So the first question I want to address to Navjot and Marjie and Robbie. We are going to ask you, tell me what success looks like for you. What does a successful day look like for you as an entrepreneur? So, Navjot, you're up first.
Thank you. For me, I would say a successful day is one where I feel present, both within my business and with my family. It's not necessarily about how much I check off the list, but whether I moved the needle on key priorities and showed up meaningfully at home. And if I had focused work time, a good client interaction, and made it to bedtime stories, that's a win for me, and that's a successful day for me.
Nice. All right, Marjie.
A successful day for me includes balance, where all the boxes, if you will, have been checked. Now, what does that mean? It means that in my speaking business, I've either booked several new engagements or I've had an engagement where I was able to positively touch those people in my audience and help to give them some new tools that will help make their lives easier. At home, it means that I've had a positive and loving interaction with my kids, wherever they happen to be. Sometimes they walk through the door, sometimes they're abroad, but we always engage and we share humor and love and kindness, and they update me. So I see them using the public relations skills that I taught them over the years, and I absolutely love it because they come back with amazing stories that, listen, fact is stranger than fiction. And it's just an absolute delight to see them grow and contribute to society in their own ways. And obviously, now that most of the kids are out of the house, also to have an interaction with my husband and get back to where we were when we were in the honeymoon stage. That's a successful day for me.
Nice. All right, Robbie, successful for you.
Well, since the parenting focus here, I want to share that my wife and I alternate mornings. So 3 days a week, alternating weeks, 3 days a week for one of us and 2 days for the other, and then we switch. So that means neither one of us is really a morning person. We didn't want the responsibility of always being up to get the kids to the bus stop. And we also, from a very early age, train the kids to knock on our door at night. In fact, I lock the door, and I taught them how to properly knock at like 2 years old, because they would. I woke up one night to my then 2-year-old staring at me from like an inch away from my face, and it like I lost a life. I will never get that life back. So I needed I needed to be woken up differently. So we also, whoever's morning is with the kids, the other person's on the night before. This has become less of an issue as my kids have grown. There's no more middle of the night wake ups, but we were like very clear with them at a very early age, like what constitutes an emergency. And breakfast, there's a help yourself breakfast available to them, so they get themselves ready in the morning. So part of success these days is that I come downstairs and the kids are like minutes away from, putting on their shoes, bags packed, ready to go. Maybe there's a couple of things I have to throw in their bag for them, but teaching them self-sufficiency, creating a house where I knew they were generally safe without me watching over them, which includes taking off the oven knobs still, right? Because like I don't want to have the house blow up when I'm not paying attention. And then they off to school or they have activities, and then my wife and I both work from home. And in the evening, I'm very careful about stopping work for evening hours to make dinner, hang out with them. But then both my wife and I tend to go back to our desks in the evening to kind of try to get a jump start on the next day's work. Partly we get to be flexible. So in the middle of the day, I might leave to go do something with my kids or take them to an appointment or something. So I love the flexibility. No days are the same days in a row. It's just not that kind of life.
I always tell people that I became an entrepreneur for the flexibility. I could work any 100 hours a week I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, for the morning people, I think this is a choice we need to make before partnering up in our lives, especially if you're thinking about partnering. I was very fortunate to partner with a guy who is a night person while I am definitely a morning person. And so we have a cutoff point, an official cutoff. 3 a.m. is our official cutoff because it's not too hard for me to get up an hour earlier, and it's not too hard for him to stay up an hour later. So we have responsibilities that are lined up based on the 3 a.m. cutoff. All right, I'm going to turn things over now to our other two panelists. Anything you guys want to add on that success question, or do we move on to the next conversation? Oh, we good? All right, so let's talk about structuring your business with parenthood in mind. Now, we're going to have to come back to Lidia because she was one of the only ones here who basically had a business before she had the kids. Elizabeth, what about you? Did you structure your business with parenthood in mind?
So I would say yes and no, because after experiencing the whole corporate burnout and then building a business, I really wanted to make sure that my priorities were in line. And so it was focusing on the kids and being able to attend those events and be present for them and get them up in the morning, be there to put them to bed at night, and make sure that I'm actually able to show up for not all, but a lot of the volunteer events at school and field trips and things like that. And so I really started with that mindset, and then I kind of started going down what your nervous system knows. And so it was that memory of just kind of working, and then setting back and realizing, hey, you're doing this because you get to spend more time with your family. And so what I actually did was I started to wean off of taking as many one-on-one clients and going more toward group focus and in-person events, like 2-day events, or I had a retreat in March. And so that allows me to not feel like I'm so bogged down during the day with a bunch of one-on-one clients. And I feel like I can show up more present for the clients that I do serve and be there for my kids and still have time for myself.
Nice. All right. Navjot, what about you? I mean, were there services or products you decided to forego because they weren't family friendly, or services you dropped? Like how does your business get structured with parenthood in mind?
Definitely. I think in the beginning, I sort of went in with a full blown plan. And then slowly I realized that not everything that I plan on doing can be done. So for example, offering services on the weekends, I thought that that should be a no problem, that I have all the flexibility that I need. However, because my daughter is so young, I had to sort of put few things on the burner. I decided that I would sort of do this on a part-time basis for now, just so I can get my feet wet and sort of establish that clientele. So I limited myself onto how many workshops I would do a month, and then slowly pick up the pace as she's growing. That was my plan. My plan A was to just go full blown, but my plan B is to sort of, do things slowly and see how it builds itself slowly, my business, as well as, I'm monitoring how slowly how my daughter is becoming more independent, and that allows me more free time to do the things that I need to do.
And just real quickly, where does your business show up versus your daughter in the timeline?
I think I definitely want to say my daughter takes the first priority. And that sort of comes from I think personally, because my when I was 4 years old, my mom moved to Canada and I was left behind. So I missed out on a lot of time with my mom. So I think that mom guilt still catches up to me. And, I don't want to repeat the same type of scenarios, or, create the same type of environment for her. So I try to do my business, or anything that is needed to be done when she's in daycare. So that's my time to sort of come up with ideas, connect with my clients, network as much as possible, and create the workshops that I need to do. And if it happens to be that I do need to uh, create workshops on the weekend, I do have a little village that looks after her while I get to do the stuff that I really need to do. And that's just sort of, I kind of balance it out and see how important that workshop is, or if I can, let it go, or if I can benefit from, networking further. So it's sort of like I can sort of gauge how that's gonna go, and that's how I prioritize both.
Okay. And Lydia, you are, I think, among all of the panelists, the only one that had business before kids, correct?
Yes.
How did you change your business structure when children arrived?
Yes. So my first child was born 11 years after I started my business. So at that point, I felt like, all right, I'm pretty well established. I have all these regular clients that I work with. Everything's going to be great. And then that child did not sleep at night. So that was a bit of a challenge. I was very, very much sleep deprived. Both my husband and I, we were sleep deprived. I did rent an office. So that kind of helped with just like separation between like home life, work life. We had a nanny in the beginning when he was really little. Then eventually he went to daycare. But I feel like I was not prepared, as prepared as I thought I was, I really was not prepared. So I really had to kind of figure things out along the way. I was lucky to have a nice group of fellow moms in business that I could turn to and just sort of figure out, like, how do I want this to work? How do I want this new life to look? And so basically it was really like, you know, drop him off at daycare, do my client work, pick him up, and the work day is done. There really wasn't a chance to kind of do the work after hours, do the work on the weekends as I might have done before having kids. So I really was kind of trying to figure out, how do I want this new normal to look like for us. Um, I think the other thing was that I didn't really have to change my client work. Luckily that pretty much stayed as is. But I did have to adjust how much networking I did, business events I went to. At the time, I was hosting networking events with a friend, and it just felt exhausting. Just you're so sleep deprived. And the last thing you want to do at 5 o'clock is go talk with a bunch of people. So that really had to change. And I will say, like now that the kids are 9 and 13, I'm starting to get back to that sort of regular networking, business events, conferences schedule, because the older one, is able to look after the younger one. So
Got
yeah,
it.
I really had to kind of rethink my daily schedule and routine.
That's a big change. But at the same time, you did have 11 years of history to figure out the business versus trying to figure out business and parenthood at the same
Yes,
time.
that
And
helped.
yeah,
May I add to that,
yeah,
please?
yes.
So I did the corporate thing when my first one came. And I remember a pointed moment where the babysitter was playing with my son and I was working in the afternoon after I had left the office and I was home. And I said to myself, Marjie, what are you doing? You're paying someone to play with your kids so that you can work? Shouldn't it be kind of like the opposite? So that was kind of the beginning of the thought process. And then after number 2 arrived, I said, that's it. I want to command my own schedule. So when I left corporate and opened up Must Have Communications, it was with the idea that if 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whenever the kids would come home from the kindergarten, then it was their time. And if a client needed something urgently, on occasion, what would happen is that my phone would ring and one of my kids would pick it up. And they'd say, Mommy, you have a call. And then I take the call and I say, I understand you just spoke with my vice president. And then there would be some laughter. Or I would be on a Zoom call as they got older and they would come into the room. And most times people were courteous and they would say, bring them in and let them join the Zoom call. And then they would ask them a question that we all knew they couldn't answer. And then they realized, you know what, this is not the time to be bothering mommy. So there was a very nice, healthy balance that even if I was like carpooling with the kids at a after school activity, and we had like this huge car back in the day, and we would all take turns, with the different parents. And if a work call came in, my kids would say, shh, Mommy's on a call. And I would say, hello, this is Marjie. Please know that there are 7 kids in the call. If this is off the record, let's do this later. So all the kids in the car would go, shh, shh. The mother of whatever my kids' names, that's what they called me, Elie's mother, or Guy's mother, or Maya's mother. And the client would sometimes say, no problem, hi kids. And sometimes they would say, no, that's okay, we'll take the call later. So it became this wonderful balance of being able to process the requests of the clients, also be available to the kids regularly. And then after they went back to sleep, then I would continue on. And I have an awful lot of energy, and I'm a night owl. I'm not much of a morning person, but as a mom, when the kids are little, you have to be a morning person. So I developed a very fine taste for coffee, which really helped me through the day. So at this point, now that they're older, things have changed a little bit. But back in the day, becoming an entrepreneur was the key, for me at least, to be striking that happy balance.
All right. And Robbie, what about you? How do you structure your day to make time for both your business and your family? Are there routines or systems that are helping you?
So I've used a calendar booking link since 2015, and having that makes it so that I can easily give people access to my availability while blocking when that availability happens on my calendar. And I no longer have to have all those back and forth emails about trying to schedule something that's mutually convenient. So I, for the most part, don't book. I don't let people book on my calendars Mondays, Fridays, or generally before lunchtime. And if I'm working with a client on the client call, we'll book one of those times. So those time slots are also held for future client calls, but also last minute requests. Cause I at one point overbooked my calendar and then I wasn't available for, the spontaneous prospect call that happened. So I'm also not, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not really the morning person. So I try to not have anything scheduled before 10 a.m. The exception is actually Innovation Women. It's the only thing that's recurring on my calendar. And there are seasons in my life where it's easier for me to get there 8:45 Eastern, and I'm ready, present, and engaged. And there are other times where I'm still getting myself breakfast. Um, for me, it's been about mapping out time blocks on my calendar using the calendaring tool. And I also have regular meetings and gatherings where I host things virtually. So a lot of my networking is things that are happening virtually. The time that it used to take for me to travel to a networking event in Boston when I was living there and find parking and go in and schmooze and then like make my way back, that hours of all the commuting and carpooling and trying to figure that out is gone. So I feel like I've regained a lot of that time, just because of so much is happening virtually for me. So I would say the one to many calls and the regular gathering, so I'm building intentional community with people, is one system, and the calendaring tool for letting other people get on my calendar definitely helps quite a bit.
Excellent. All right. So, and our other panelists, are there systems things or routines that you're using that you want to offer up as a helpful tip?
I
I
will
think that,
say that one of the things that I've been doing quite regularly is I make my top 3 for the day. So I have a planner. I just recently started using a paper planner again, in addition to all my digital tools. But I write down my top 3, and those are really the ones that I need to check them off. Whether it's a deadline, they're due today, they're due tomorrow. But it really helps keep me accountable. It helps to make sure that, if something comes up, like, you get the call from school, oh, your child's not feeling well, got to pick them up. At least okay, if I get those 3 things done, I have been productive. I've got my deadlines under control. So that one's been really successful for me.
I think that it's important to prioritize your children equally with whatever appointment you have for your client. So if you know that you have something at the school, then that's what goes into your calendar. And just like if you had another client booking and a client said, oh, are you available at this time? You'd say, sorry, I have an existing commitment. Well, the child booking has equal importance. So again, sorry, but I already have an existing commitment. Can we try this another time? And there's always another time. And if you need it during the day, you just, extend your day a little bit if it's an urgency. So I just think that there needs to be respect for all parts of your life and to have one calendar.
I agree. I block out, the dates that I'm volunteering for the field trip. The kids have their dentist appointments, those are blocked out. Like you said, you don't have to say, oh, I'm volunteering for a field trip. It depends on who I'm talking to. I may tell them. But yeah, those are on the calendar and they're blocked out. And that time is precious to me for sure.
yeah, go for it, Robbie.
My wife took a new job a couple of years ago that involves a lot of travel. And so that's the other thing that sometimes changes. You get into a really good routine, everything's hunky dory, and then somebody starts to leave the house more frequently. That used to be me pre-pandemic. I was the one who was leaving a few times a year for these long trips. But now, she'll be gone for half a week, a couple of times a month, and a lot of late nights planning those trips. And so, we've had to look ahead and make sure that maybe usually she does a certain thing, but she's physically not here and needing to make sure I move things around. So one of the things I try to do is not schedule things where I may have to shift and take over. And I only fill that spot when we're close enough that I know that I don't need to do that. That way I don't have to move things around. So there's no reoccurring events on the time blocks that even my wife is covering the children, because I might need to step in and do it. And this ripple effect of having to change all those appointments is just annoying. So those end up being either open spots to get more work done or a last minute spot that I can add something.
Great. All right. I want to get a raise of hands on this one. Is there a thing that you have outsourced that was a game changer for your, I'm going to say, overall productivity? Anybody got a thing that you've outsourced? Navjot, and then Robbie.
I definitely have to say daycare. I mean, luckily, I had a year for maternity, and actually I went for 18 months, but then it was cut short to 12 months. So I had that year, and then once I started going back to work, having childcare was extremely important. I was very much scared of it because of all the horror stories that you get to hear. And, you know, when you only have the one and only child and you have to leave them in someone else's hands, that's a bit scary. But I had to overcome that hurdle because otherwise I couldn't focus on work. So that's one thing. And also, I would say emailing and social media scheduling. So for my rescue, that's a big thing where we have to engage in social media a lot of the times. So we have outsourced that aspect of our rescue where we have someone who does that for us. They create, you know, images, they create the body, the language of each post that we are going to do or make on our social media, because the more admin work we did, the less time we had to focus on our projects. So those are the two things that helped me in a big time in order to be able to work effectively.
Okay. Robbie?
Hiring someone to clean the house. We moved to a 4-bedroom in the suburbs, and as soon as we moved in, I was like, this is a thing we're just going to be doing. And it's twice a month, someone comes and does the deep cleaning. We don't have to do as much in between. I do think as my kids get older, they may shift because I want them to know how to clean the toilet. But it is very nice not to have to take the time to do that. And the other thing is lawn service. We talked about, you know, buying a lawnmower and all that. $35 a week. Someone comes, they're done in 15 minutes. Boom, right? So those are the kinds of things on the household side. And then on the business side, I have the fortune of working with the same amazing assistant for over 5 years now, Paya Robbins. Her job title and her role has changed dramatically in those 5 years. But I mean, my business is built around us working together collaboratively to figure out how to handle all those minutia pieces that a business requires.
Excellent. All right. Anyone else on the outsourced things that make a difference? Yep, Elizabeth?
I think Lydia was first.
Okay.
Oh,
Lydia then?
thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to say for me, first of all, Robbie, I need to get on board with having someone clean the house. That's on my list. That would be wonderful. I'm glad to hear you say that. But my biggest,
We lost you there. I'm gonna go to Elizabeth while you're fixing the ear pods.
there we go.
Oh, there we
It
go.
fell
All
out.
right.
I'm back. It fell out.
You're
That was
back.
weird.
Go for it.
So yeah, hiring a VA was definitely the biggest life-changing difference in my business. And I waited a very long time to do that, having my business for so long. But I have a VA now that manages my social media. So she's posting things, she's creating graphics in Canva. She's also helping to manage the email marketing, my blogs. That's been amazing. I tell everybody, if you're a business owner, you need to have a VA even on a part-time basis.
Excellent. All right, Elizabeth, outsourcing stuff.
Yes, so I'm right on board with the Robbie cleaning, and I got to get some pointers from you on just the way that you've structured your household because it's awesome. But cleaning, we definitely get somebody that comes out biweekly as well, and that's been a huge help. I would love to actually make laundry my next one because that's just a nightmare. That's on the list. As far as the pickup from school, so it's not really an outsource, but I do all the drop-offs, and then my husband makes sure that he leaves work early to get the kids and do pickups. So I don't have to rush and go do that. So that allows for that flexibility for me to work a little bit later before they get home, which is really, really nice. And then as far as systems go, For a while, I was really doing everything because I'm a creative and an artist. I was literally creating all my own stuff in Canva, doing all my own designs. I created my own logo. And so just managing all that, plus all my posting and my writing. And so what I've recently done is hired a VA part-time and hired a automation company to help me automate the backend systems, which is just amazing because as they're building it out, I'm just seeing like things just kind of work, and it's really nice. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're by yourself as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, looking into getting some kind of automation.
All right. And we've got a couple of clarifying questions from the audience. Eden Renee would like to know, Robbie, can you go a little bit deeper on the evolving tasks and roles of your assistant?
Well, let's just say that when I hired her in February of 2020, it was to do some research to help me do cold outreach as a speaker. And then the pandemic came. So that wasn't a thing. And my business journey changed dramatically. So the one consistent I will say is that I had a podcast now for about a decade. And a big role for any assistant I've had was to maintain that. And I want to just be responsible for finding the guest, interviewing the guest, and that's it. Like I didn't want to be bogged down. I didn't want to be editing it. So I have an editor I've worked with for a decade. So that's a huge time saving. She's creating show notes and the social collateral, the images, writing me a draft email that I send to the guest. So there's a lot of that. But then the projects vary. I mean, we have this running task list. So as I run various campaigns throughout the year, there are pieces that she's doing, pieces that I'm doing. I think the other piece of this is how my kids have been able to help around the house. So every night I run the dishwasher, and every morning they wake up and they empty it. They have their own half of the dishwasher they're in charge of. Um, so I come home, I come down in the morning, and like any dishes that need to be put in throughout the day, I can just do that. I don't have to empty a dishwasher before starting dinner. I mean, those are the kind of things that shifted over time. So it's not outsourced, but it is helpful. They also have roles with laundry. So, bane of my existence is that there's always laundry. Well, now if they want something, they have to plan ahead, and they know how to put the laundry in. They know how to move it over. They know how to take it out. We drag it up the stairs, and then 3 days later they finally put it away. But at least they are participating. So a lot of this is just thinking about, not at 2.5, it's a little harder, but you can start including them in like matching socks, folding underwear, just to like even getting used to the idea. And what I'll say also is that my wife taught my kids the idea of invisible labor. And so occasionally one of my kids will walk by and say, "Oh, mom, thanks. Thanks. I see your invisible labor. I appreciate that." And they'll just walk away. And she's just like, wow. So, and they also said, "Oh, what do you want to do for Mother's Day?" "Oh, never mind. We shouldn't ask you that. That's Mother's Day. I'm going to talk to Dad about it. That's not yours." And like the fact that we've sort of educated them about the psychic energy of running a household. And it's not that they don't know how to clean a toilet, but they know these other things that I think are important. And it's not a chore. They're not chores. This is just like what you do to run a household. And if you want a clean shirt that's blue, well, you're gonna have to make sure the laundry gets done by tomorrow. So that's the other balance of this, is just like like my assistant took on more responsibility as I was able to build that trust. My kids, very similar in a way.
Oh dear. We got a question while you were talking about that, Robbie. Eden Renee would like to know if we can have Robbie's wife teach us all how to teach our kids about invisible labor.
You say it out
Yes.
loud. Honestly, this is you say it, you point it out, you reinforce it, you give them language for it. I just point out my oldest is autistic and he gets it. This is not like, it's just like funny how it's like to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't ask you those questions because it's your day." "Okay, never mind. I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm going to go find Dad." And she came and told me that. So I just think you just start naming it.
Yep, that's great. Margie, I noticed you were giving me a little wave there. Did you want to
I
jump in
want,
on
I
this one?
want the fellow moms out there to know, and dads, that whatever it is you're having trouble with, there's always a who for the how. whether it's your external team, and in my case, for anything business related, I have a team of freelancers for whatever it is I might need. And inside the house, my team is my family. And in terms of the laundry, I'll tell you what I did when they became like early teenagers, like 12, 13-ish age. I said, kids, I've got a present for you. What's the present? I said, everybody gets a laundry basket. And here's how you use the machines. And it's on you. If you want clean clothes, it's on you. But what if I don't have any underwear left? Well, then you're going to have to wear dirty underwear because mom is out, has left the building. And that's when they began to do their own laundry. Any kind of house assignment, just like you would do at the office, just like you would do in your work life, your family is your team. And if you teach them early enough, they will respect it. At least that's been my experience.
All right, we have some more audience questions. And again, these are clarifications / ooh, I want the details. Lydia, you are being asked, if you don't mind, what service are you using for virtual assistants and is it cost effective?
Well, yes, I'm happy to share a referral for my VA. I can drop the URL in the chat. I think it is cost effective for what she has done to help me grow my business. So I have, thanks to her work, I have a much stronger presence on social media, specifically on LinkedIn, which is where I stay connected with clients, with prospects. So, I have had experiences where people have literally found me in LinkedIn because of that stronger presence. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. She is also someone who has gotten to know my business, my voice, so she can easily, write a first draft for a post. I can go in and make some edits. So I think it's worth it. I think it's one of those, business investments that you make. And again, don't shop around for the cheapest price. I think that you really do need to find somebody who understands your messaging, your voice. I'm a brand strategist, so these things are important to me when I am expressing myself on social media. So I would say, that would be my tip. Like, don't look at the bottom line price. Look at, will this person get to know me and my company and be able to express that? But I'm happy to drop her URL in the chat.
Awesome. And for Elizabeth, you got asked, can you explain the automation a little bit more that you mentioned?
Yeah. So, for example, backend systems like Go High Level, there's also Automator. And what they do is they help you to build out your system to where your funnel, so from the front end engagement with the client to the actual nurturing of the communication. So building out your newsletter and different things like that, you put in the content and then it will automate it. So it drops it for you. And then the customer, if you have lead magnets that you've created, you're able to then input those into the system so that when a customer goes in and enters their email, it automatically sends it to them. And then it puts them into your email list automatically. And then it begins the nurture sequence. And you can really do that with webinars, with pretty much anything that you do. If you offer any kind of services, masterminds, networking events, you can really input all of that into the Go High Level or Automator system, and it will just kind of manage that whole back end for you. So it makes it so much easier in life, a lot just more simple when it comes to being an entrepreneur.
Excellent. And I think we probably have time for one more question for everybody. And actually, we're getting this question from the audience as well. So perfect timing. Let's talk about boundaries. What boundaries have you set up between work and family? How do you enforce them? How do you handle things like school breaks, sick days, unexpected parenting curveballs? And how do you handle that same kind of unexpected stuff, after hours, emails, client needs, when it's family time? And actually, one of our guests today, Rachel, is saying, what boundaries do you set up as it relates to technology engagement? So easy to have our work going everywhere we have our phones. So Navjot, want to kick us off and make sure we've got time for everybody?
Yes. So I usually end my day at 4:30 because that's the time then I have to pick up my daughter from daycare. And my time after that is family time. I put away my phone, my laptop, everything is stays in the office and I do not touch it. And I make a rule for myself that anything that is not urgent can always be answered the next day or can be worked on the next day. But if I miss these moments with my daughter and my family, I won't be able to get them back. I can't recreate those moments. So I just make sure that I have visual cues and I have focused time that help me set my expectations with myself. So even if it's just a reminder or like a sticky tack note that goes on my laptop that says, pick up my daughter's name is Junie, so pick up a Junie around 4:30. I know that I have to, I need 5 minutes to gather snacks, water bottle, because she likes to have a snack on our on our drive back. And then also having buffer days as well, where if in case she gets sick, I have to take a sick day, but my husband and I, we sort of manage those amongst us. So if I know that I have a meeting that I can't run out of, I'll often request him to work from home. Now that we have that hybrid environment sort of type of work that we can do. And vice versa. If he's not able to take a day off, I take a day off. There's not a lot that you can do when your child is sick. It is what it is. And then, I make sure that my clients or my partners know that I am not available for that day. And that if I can make time while she's sleeping or during the nap, I can. So that's how I handle my day, sort of set boundaries for myself.
Excellent. Others on the boundaries. Who else wants to chime in on that one? Lydia, then Elizabeth.
Yes, I have very similar to how Navjot has hers, her days scheduled is, evenings and weekends are family time. And if something comes up, there's an emergency, like I have one client where, they have yearly conferences. So sometimes it comes up where she'll ask me, is it possible for you to make these changes over the weekend? I'm sorry to ask, you can charge me double time, I will gladly do that, but it's not, as a rule, no meetings in the evening, no meetings or work, on the weekends, just again to preserve that time. I feel like there does need to be, maybe I am working, I'm doing something to catch up, but I want to set that boundary, that they're not expecting me to work 24/7 on their projects. So totally
Excellent.
agree with that.
All right, Robbie or Margie?
For me, I think I try to not work between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. So nothing gets scheduled during that time. There are always the exceptions. If I'm invited to speak for a 7 o'clock event virtually, then we'll arrange for that. But that's usually when I'm heading to go make dinner and or take one of my kids to an activity. I think the other thing is all these rules go out the window when your business needs to be rebuilt. So in 2020 and into early 2021, I worked every day that ended in Y. I mean, it was flat out trying to reestablish something that the pandemic had thrown off course. And between April and November of 2020, the only day I didn't work was Father's Day and US Thanksgiving. And it was really hard to actually recalibrate in early 21 when I realized I didn't need to do that anymore. And so it took a little while to get to the point where I don't go into my office over the weekend until Sunday night because I like to get a little jump start to look at my calendar. And when I skip that, I always feel thrown off the first 2 days of the week. But it's like 9:30 at night, I'll come in to check on things. So now I can actually say Saturday, I don't, I know if I go in my office, I'll sit down and get work done. And then there are times when I'm just now wrapping up a book. So there are definitely times when I am working on the weekend, but it's on a book. So it's my choice to come in, do some work, and I can decide to not do work and watch a movie with my kids for 2 hours. So I just
Great.
think that the boundaries are really important to set, to have like the norm. And then there are seasonal or disruptive moments that
All right.
be okay with it.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, we got Elizabeth, real quickly, your boundary statement. Finish us out
All
here.
right, my boundary statement. So for me, what I've actually done now is I include the kids in the boundary. And so I will ask them because I do a lot of like events that are for my soul. I'm a soul-led entrepreneur. And so whether that be sound baths or different things like that. And so I will ask the kids if I know they have an event or something going on. Like today, for example, it was their last day of school party. And I said to them, hey, like I have this really important thing that I was asked to do. And it could potentially help a lot of moms and dads out there. Do you think that it would be okay if I don't volunteer and I attend? And they're like, yeah, mom, of course. And so then that gives me the like, all right, I'm good. But if they give me that like cringe, then I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. And, and so that makes me feel good and I don't get that guilt. And so that allows me to kind of incorporate my family into the boundaries. And so that's been
That's
the
awesome.
biggest help for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right.
I love that.
Thank you to all of our parentpreneurs. Thank you as well to our attendees today, special guests, and we will be following this up with an article on Lioness magazine. Take care, everybody. Good parenting to everyone. And also, obviously, good luck on your entrepreneurial endeavors. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.